Hey guys, Jojo here. This guide making tutorial should help you create your guide on MOBAFire. And the first thing you need to do is be logged in. So just up here you can see I'm logged in. When I hover my mouse over my username, you can see all these options. You probably don't have lots of those available to you, but this is a link that will get you back to your guides once you've actually saved them. Alright, so to create a guide on MOBAFire is pretty easy. You have two options. You click up here for create guide and it'll lead you to the guide editor straight away, or you could scroll down all the way to the bottom of your page and create a guide with this button just down here. So I'm going to go ahead and just click this one. Alright, so as the guide's loading, you'll notice that you can see this screen. Looks a bit blank, there's a lot of options, don't worry about that, we'll get to that in a bit. First you've got to have a title, and it can be anything, it doesn't have to be witty, it doesn't have to be amazing, just anything for now, because you need a title in order to save your guide. Alrighty, now that I've got my guide title, I want to just talk about some of these things over here. First up, guide help will lead you to my making a guide, so where you probably came from. That guide has stuff about formatting, it has template coding examples, it has information about getting your guide out there and things like that. You can always talk to me in the discussion section if you have any questions or whatever. This leads you to a slightly more sparse coding guide that other people tend to add to as well, so both are good. Alright, first up, your guide settings. So you should leave the guide type as champion unless you're specifically making a different type of guide. So you might be writing a general guide about supporting or a general guide about kiting or whatever. You might be writing a humor guide. So humor encompasses everything that's, silly, not serious. And then a team guide might be, you have a team of players and you'll want to share your different builds, and so you can reference with each other as you get into tournaments, etc. Alright, you choose your map. So this is going to be on Summoner's Rift. Your role. So this is going to be a tanky Ashe guide top lane. Tags don't actually do anything, don't worry about that. C to V means comment to vote. It means that the first 20 votes that you may get on your guide can only be left if the voter leaves a comment. So that comment could be, your guide is amazing, thank you so much for helping, +1, and you get a vote. The comment could be something like, this is trash, whatever, but they still need to leave a comment. So this comment to vote, it stops trolls. What stops people from just downvoting for no reason? They have to actually leave a point. Alright, this is the suggested order of chapters for your guide. You don't have to follow these chapters, of course. You can have any sort of order you like, but it's good to have this example just in case you're stuck. And clicking these will add extra chapters to your guide. So this is the first chapter, chapter 1, this is chapter 2, etc. You can move the chapters around using these arrows. Oops. Just click and drag, and you can also collapse a chapter, if you start to have multiple chapters to navigate around your guide, it's a bit easier. I'm going to delete this chapter for now. Alright. At any point during your guide making process, you can press save, and it saves your guide. Oh, fair enough. Need to add a title. Now it might save. There you go. So that means that even if you're making a build, you have to have at least one chapter. Alrighty. Don't press publish until you're ready to share your guide with everyone. For now, saving it is enough. Pressing view will show you what your guide looks like. We don't need to do that just yet. Alright, now let's move on to actually selecting information for your guide. As you'll notice, there are 10 possible slots for any amount of champions to put in. So you can put in all your favorite support champions, you can put in all your favorite top lane champions, whatever, or you could put in specific builds. So for instance, I could have tanky Ashe here. I just need to click on Ashe. So for instance, this is tanky top lane. And then maybe I'm going to have another option for Ashe. and it's going to be doesn't really matter. But basically that means that you have 2 build options, and so you can specify 2 entirely different playstyles in the same guide. For now, I'm just going to delete this one as I don't need it. All right, here's my Ash starting off. It starts you off in general, which is your summoner spells. I'm going to select my summoner spells for top lane Ash. She obviously needs teleport and flash. You'll notice that it came over here. That tells you which summoner spells you have selected. Next step is going into items. The screen will look like this. There's a lot to take in, don't worry about it. First thing you should note is that there's a purchase order option. If you just want to show your final build example, you just can leave it as 1 purchase order option and fill in this to 6 items or however many items you can have in final purchase, and that's all good. If you want to be a bit more specific, you can break the purchase orders down. So for instance, I can have spawn, then I can add, first recall, then I can add something like core items on top lane tanky solo Ash. So let's go back to spawn here, purchase order number 1, and put in my spawn items. So when I start the game, these are the items I want you to buy. You can search for the items here by typing in the beginning of the item's name, or you can search through these categories. Now I want Ash to start off with some boots. She's got to be fast, yo. Alright, I also want her to start off with some health potions, just in case. She's not going to take any damage, top lane is tanky Ash, but just in case. Okay, that's my spawn. That's my note that will appear above the spawn items so people can read it. First recall. On my first recall, I want Ash to be buying something that gives her more health. There's my purchase order item note, and here is my giant spot. Core items. On tanky Ash, we need a Trinity Force. We need a Dead Man's Plate. I'm just making this stuff up, by the way. And definitely a Warmogs. Those are her core items. You can tick this little button here that says core items. If you do tick this core items button, it will appear in the search list of guides. So your guide will say, what was my guide name? Solo top lane Ash, and it'll show these 3 items. So I don't recommend clicking core items on your actual core items. I recommend clicking it when you've got your final build. Speaking of, at the moment I've got 3 purchase orders. In the event that I've made a mistake and I need to add another purchase order, I can just do that. So on my first recall I have this giant spell, which is 1,000 gold. What happens if I recall and I don't have 1,000 gold? Well, I can have an alternative first recall. And in my alternative first recall, and it's a hard lane, we're going to buy Doran's Shield. But it's out of order. You don't get a Doran's Shield after core items. You click on the purchase order you want to move, and you just need to move it. So now it's in the right order. Okay? Just going to press save. Let's make that final build. So we're going to have Boots of Swiftness. We're going to have that Trinity Force. We have that Dead Man's Plate. We're going to have that Warmogs. What's another health item? This is where this comes in handy. I can have a look. She is definitely going to need a Sunfire's Cape and a Starrick's Gauge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's her full items. Type in core items and say, this is a well-rounded build that will maze. Don't forget to name it. let's move on. I've got my purchase orders, done with my items. Now we're going on to abilities. With champions, generally you get your ultimate whenever you can, which is levels 6, 11, and 16. And then you choose one ability to max first, choose a second ability to max second, and the last ability to max last, unless you're one of those champions that have a different amount of points that they can put into their abilities. Alright, to show you what I mean, let's have a look. So volley first, ranges focus second, hawk shot third. Then I can go 4, 5. I'm choosing volley as my first option. 6 is already done for me. 7, you can't max an ability until level 9. So 1, 4, 5, 7, 9. And then you can just spec the points however you like next. So 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18. In your notes, you can say what to do. So, and you can say why. It's up to you. Now that I've done my abilities, I can go on to my masteries. Here are my masteries. Most champions standardly go 18, 12, as in 18 all the way down to the bottom of a tree, and then 12 to spec some other points. So I'm just going to quickly put some stuff in. It doesn't really matter. It's just for show. I don't know, 18 points in. I've got my keystone, and then I can put 12 points somewhere else. So 18 and 12. All right. Let's go to runes. Your runes page looks like this at the moment. It's empty, but it's got spaces just like in the game's client. Scroll down a little bit, and let's start putting it in. So tanky top lane Ashe definitely needs some quints. She definitely needs some health. In fact, all she's going to have is health. That is the best defense top lane. For reals. Look at that. OP. Alright, skins doesn't actually do anything much. It just adds the skin at the top right hand corner of your cheat sheet. So it doesn't really matter what you do here, but I'm going to click Word Ashe because it's my favorite Ashe skin. This can take you a very long time depending on how much effort you want to put into it. Basically, it's your matchup section of your cheat sheet. So top lane, Ashe is going to face, I don't know, let's say she's going to face Alawi. Alawi is a pretty terrible champion. You know, Ashe is going to dump all over her. She's no threat at all. So green means an easy or a low threat, and then red means high threat. You can keep on adding champions, and it's going to be in the order you add them. It's not going to be alphabetical. So to show you that, I'm just going to add a Mumu. You know, doesn't matter what you say in these. I don't think many people actually read them. Okay, and you can keep on adding as many as you like. So because we've finished with our cheat sheet, we've done all these options. I want to show you what it looks like. That means you click View. All right, and the guide will load. So I've got my title here. I've got when it's last updated. It's got me and my username. It's got how many views. Has 0 views because no one's looked at it. I've got 0 comments and 0 votes. And let's scroll down. So tanky top lane Ashe, got my summoner spells, I've got my skin here that you selected earlier, got my quints, runes. Now you can order the runes however way you like, and here you'll notice there's some empty space. So technically you can have 7 different types of runes. So I might have quint of movement speed, and I might have a quint of health, and I might have a quint of attack damage. So then that would be 2 extra runes here. Then I might have a glyph of scaling magic resist, and then a mark of crit chance. So I think you can only fit 7 without it going to another line. So I would just recommend having 7 different ones if you were going to go that far into really deep specification. All right, here we have our items. So, and your notes. Ashe only needs 1 pot. Here's our first recall. Here's our core items. You'll notice that these notes go after the title of your purchase order. So I would avoid adding notes to purchase orders with only one item. If you have another item in there, the notes is fine. And here's our final build with the note. And we clicked core for this one, so this is what will show up in the examples. All right, let's scroll down. Here's our ability sequence. Here's our mastery tree. And here's our threats meter. So you'll notice allow is down the bottom, Amumu's over here. Here's your notes that you wrote about in them. And as you add more, they'll bunch up all around the different points that you add them. All right, so that's all the cheat sheet stuff done. See? Cheat sheet. I want to now show you a little bit of coding. And we're going to start off really simple and really easy and work our way up. So in your introduction, you're going to add something about yourself. You know, traditionally it's about yourself and the champion you're playing. And you can write what the guide readers might expect to see. I don't know. You can say whatever you want to say. If your guide's about supporting, you might list the different things that are going to be there. It's just an introduction. You can also clarify what elo you're at, you know, how many games you played with that champion. All right, so I'll leave it at that. I want to show you what it looks like. You press save and you press view to have a look. All right, let's scroll down. Let's have a look. Here's the title, introduction, and here's your text. As you'll notice, it's kind of boring and no visual interest at all, but we'll fix that. Okay, back to our coding. First thing I'm going to show you is some very quick shortcuts for 3 commands. You'll notice that you've got some commands up here. So you've got bold, italics, underline, heading, color, embed video, hyperlink, embed image, lists, and a bunch of other things that don't actually work very well in guides. Don't worry about those. Here's my name, Jojo, and I'm going to make it bold. So I go and press Control B or Command B if you're on a Mac, and here come up the commands. You can also type square bracket B square bracket, have your text, square bracket, slash B square bracket. That'll make it bold. Another quick shortcut that you can have is an underline, so that's Control U. Now that will underline that text. And then you can have italics, Control I. So what does that look like? Oh, sorry, I forgot to say, I have access to the BB Code preview. I don't know if you will. Instead of going into the guide view, which takes a bit longer to load, I'm just going to be pressing that little tick to show you what it looks like. So Jojo, Tanky Ash, and italics. Of course, you can combine all these 3 to make something that looks a bit terrible. It's up to you. Okay, so that's what I've done so far. I want to introduce you to very simple wiki coding, and that's simply adding brackets, 2 square brackets, to any item, champion, ability, summon a spell, rune, mastery, etc. So here I've added 2 square brackets to the beginning and 2 square brackets to the end. I'm going to add another example here, what items like Trinity Force to buy, and what to do in team fights with Enchanted Crystal. All right. You'll notice that I haven't used any caps. In fact, I can get rid of this cap. You don't need capital letters for any of these things. All right, so I've added these 3 wiki codes. This is what it looks like. Brings up the little icon and also makes the text link in yellow. When I hover my mouse over it, you won't be able to see it here. You might be able to see it just below down here. pops up with a code. In fact, I'll just quickly show you over here. So I'm loading my preview. This is what everyone has access to. Down here, I can load it. It's kind of neat. So this is a great way of adding visual interest and some interactivity to your guide. It's kind of cool. All right, so that's what our guide looks like so far. Now I want to show you how to add columns. All right, so columns, you have to add the columns tag, and then next col to add the next column. If you leave this line blank, it doesn't count as a column, and it's just the starter. If you put something in here, it'll count as a column. So I recommend not doing that. I'm going to add another column, and then I'm going to close my tag, my columns rather, with the columns tag. So at the moment, that means that I have 2 columns, 1 column of text and 1 column with nothing at the moment. I'm going to put in another form of wiki coding. We type in brackets, icon, equals, I'm going to put ash. Again, you can put in anything, an item, a mastery, a rune, icon, ash, and I'm going to specify a size. I'm going to say size 70. All right, so at the moment, I've got 2 columns. I've got this column with ash's icon, and then I've got this column with my text. I'm going to just show you what this looks like. It's not going to look great, by the way. So at the moment, I feel like I'm a bit sardine squashed between my icon and my text. That's because in the guide, the coding doesn't actually allocate any space between your columns. You'll notice that if you use coding, column coding in the forums, it does, but in guides it doesn't. So one way around that is adding a specific column with a specific width, and that's going to add another column in the middle that's 15 pixels wide. So have a look. Now I've got some space between my 2 main columns. Alternatively, just going to get rid of that. You could specify the width of this column. So the width has to be bigger than the icon. I'll show you what that does. So it extends the width of this column all the way across, pushing this column width a bit longer. Either way is fine. I prefer using the next column, the empty next column. It allows me to control the width of the space. For instance, if I want it to be ridiculously large for some reason, I could do that. So I'm just going to get rid of this again. Let's have a look. So it almost has the same effect anyway. Doesn't matter what you do. All right. The next thing I want to do, let's change this back to a more comfortable size, is show you another different type of coding. Let's make another column. By the way, you can have as many columns as you want. You can have 15 columns if you want. And in fact, that's how we actually do one of these coding clusters. Let me find it. Sorry. So this part here, this has a bunch of columns. In fact, it has 18. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with columns. Just need to scroll back up now because I need this section for a bit later. Thanks for having patience. Anyway, here's my next column. And in here, I'm going to use equals frost shot. You'll see what I'm doing in a second. I'm leaving a space between each icon because when they're squished together, it doesn't look that great. And as you notice, I haven't specified a width. So at the moment, they'll default to the same width as these simple wiki codings, which is 25. All right, at the moment, it looks like this, which is not what I coded, by the way. If you'll remember, what I coded was 1 line and then one line, and then one line. But because I didn't specify a width for the column, it just squished everything into one row. One column. So let's change that. Before, I told you that these were all 25, so you can specify it to be 25 plus 25 plus 25, or you could do something like this. I'm going to put in 100, and then I'm going to use this code that I wanted to show you, center. Center makes everything centered, and you have to close the center tag at the end, or everything after this command here will become centered. Let's have a look. Not bad, hey? It's not amazing, but it's not bad. I'm also going to add a center here, and I'm going to specify this width to be 80. And with this coding, I don't actually need this column. Let's have a look, we'll see what happens. See? All right, now it's looking a little better. It's still a bit sparse, still a bit not that great. So what we can do is add some color. To do that, we simply have to write color with American spelling to anyone else who's British, Australian like me, and we have to put in a color. You can type in green, you can type in blue, you can type in red, any common color like that works. Or you could go to a BB code list of colors. This is, I just typed in BB code color list and this came up, and I use it quite often actually. I'm going to select a color and just Control V, paste. Make sure there's a hashtag at the beginning. So, whoops. What I've got is color equals hashtag and then the code. To close it off, just type in color. You'll notice that I've got bold and then color and then text and then color and then bold. So I have to close off whatever I did inside first, followed by whatever I did on the outside. And then if I wanted to add underline, I'd have to put underlined here and underlined here. Then if I wanted to add strikes through, I'd put on strikes through here and put strikes through there. It has to be nested, in other words. All right, so let's see what it looks like so far. Looking a bit better. But I'm going to show you another thing that you can do with text. So I want to add a heading. To specify the size of the font, we just type in size. You can go all the way up to 10, I think, but 6 is a more reasonable size. And then type in your text. And don't type it, and then type the final part for size. What does it look like? Looks like this. And you could keep it like that, or you could change the color, which is what I'm going to do. So once again, color equals, go to your BB code color list, find a color that you think will suit. Doesn't even have to be in the same color group, it can be anything you like. Add that hashtag if it doesn't have a hashtag. Control V, end the tag at the end. All right, let's see what it looks like now. Looking okay. All right, another thing I wanted to show you was adding those dividers that you might have seen all over the site. One way to do that is to add a bunch of hyphens. And you'll get something looking like this. It's very simple. You could, by the way, you can extend the chapters length by clicking on that. You could write instead, for the same effect, rule. So bracket, rule, bracket. Same effect. You could go to my making a guide. See all these dividers I've made? They're all images, so you just need to right click, go to copy image address. Oh, it's in formatting techniques chapter. And then type, this is for embedding images. Bracket, img equals Control V and bracket. Now I'm going to show you what this looks like, and it's not going to look the way you expect for one reason. This is automatically the length of the entire width of the guide. I did that to make it easier for everyone else, but if you're using columns and you're putting it in like that, it's not going to work, obviously. It crushes everything to the side, but it still looks pretty. To deal with that, you can simply change the width of this. So I'm going to make this 600, probably actually 550, because the width of the guide is 690, right? It's 690, and I've already got 80 here, and I've already got 100 here. In fact, it should be less than 550. We'll see what happens. You have to also add an extra enter space at this point to ensure that this text doesn't go up the top here if there's any space. Let's have a look now. All right, so it's still too long, like I was saying. So let's now alter it to 500. So coding is a lot of trial and error until you've got everything down pat. There you go. It's not bad. All right, the other thing you could do, sorry, I'll just keep that up a bit longer. If you don't want to muck around with images and you want to be able to control the degree of color of your divider, you can use this preset coding. So I'm going to delete this. It's over here in my canvas, my making a guide, and you can use a table, which is 1 pixel wide. Not wide, sorry, 1 pixel padding. So it's going to make a rule like this, a divider like this. All right, so you select it, Control C, Control V, and it will appear here. So that's table. You can do lots of stuff with tables. I'm not going to talk about tables today. TD, background color, it's going to be green. Again, I don't want it to be green. I want it to be something from in here. So let's have a look. I'm going to choose cornflower blue, just going with that blue theme. Let's have a look. Remember, I don't have a hashtag, so I need to add one in. And again, tables are actually weird. When they work in columns, it doesn't matter what width you have them to, it automatically adjusts, which is great. And that's what it looks like. So obviously you can do much more than what I've done, but this is a good start of learning, and I want to show you what it looks like in your actual guide. So when you save and view, it's going to show you your skin, it's going to show you all this stuff that we had to talk about earlier, and this is what it looks like in your guide. So notice that the background is black, so the colors stand out a bit more, and the sentences are actually spaced to allow for this BB code. All right, and with that knowledge of how to do all this stuff, I hope that's going to help you out with your coding. If you want me to go over any of these templates in future videos, like how to do custom table contents or pros and cons or whatever, I can do that too. But just for now, I thought showing you the very simple stuff with columns, icons, changing colors and stuff like that would help you out. Alright, well that's it from me. I hope this was a good tutorial, and joy out.